Ellarigu namaskara. I hope you all are doing good. Welcome back to the Little Things, and I'm back after one more MIA. So, if you're wondering, maybe now she has started doing some movie review. No, I'm not into that. But I wanted to make this video very badly because I wanted to talk about three things. One is why I wanted to watch this movie, The Kashmir Files, and second, what I went through while watching this movie, what was my experience, and third is what was my takeaway from this movie. So if you're someone who might say like, so what, I don't care what you think about all these things, then what I would like to tell you is yes, I understand why you would say that, because I was that person who would say, you know what, I don't care, because being the millennial, we are happy doing our Netflixing and chilling, and we have enough problems in our own lives to take care of than breaking our heads over other stuff. And just saying that ignorance is bliss, this is actually good. And I was that person. So I hope through this video we can think differently. So that's why I wanted to talk about this. And although there are three questions that I want to deal with, most of this video is going to focus on the very first question: why I wanted to watch Kashmir Files in the first place. So let's get started. So coming to our first question, why I wanted to watch Kashmir Files. So to answer this question, I'll have to take you to my childhood. So when I was a kid, like any other lower middle class family, in my home, most of the times my dad would watch news all the time, and I was so frustrated with his news watching that I somewhere started hating news. Like, I didn't want to do anything with it. I just wanted to run away from it, and I never understood what is the importance of news, knowing things that's happening around us, and that continued very much till into my 30s. And things changed a couple of months back. I'll tell you why. Because most of the times when I'm having these conversations with my brother or with Rajesh, we tend to have these discussions on random topics, and most of the times when the topic is around, let's say, politics or our history or even Hinduism for that matter, I really don't have much to say. I really feel very stupid, dumb, illiterate, or really a person without any opinion on anything, and which is very different from the person who I am, because I like having opinions on certain things. But since I've been running away from knowing what's happening around me, I never took an active interest in any of this throughout my adult life, if I have to say. Every time my brother would bring this topic about why you're not trying to educate yourself about this, I would be like, you know what, ignorance is my bliss. I don't want to break my head over it. This is the exact things that I would say, and he would be like, one day your bubble is gonna burst, and why do you want that to happen it that way? Why can't you make that conscious effort to learn about things and educate yourself? And I would be like, not now, maybe some other time, and I would never do it. But a couple of months back, when we moved to this home, our new home here in Brampton, and we were doing all this renovation, during which we also fell sick. So to recover from that and complete the renovation, and there was so much office work and then housework, I was super stressed, and that's the reason why I was like, no, I have to stop this, I need to take a break, and I stopped making videos. And as a result of that, what happened is I had a lot of time, free time at my hands. So finally I was like, okay, let me use this opportunity to learn something about what's happening around us, all those burning topics that we always have on news channels. Let's see what people have to say, the right wing, the left wing, whether I associate myself with these people or those people or neither of them. So I wanted to learn and explore about these things. So finally I started watching all these debates, conferences, what speakers have to say, read about these things, and they say, right, once you see something you cannot unsee it. That's what happened with me. Like it's like a rabbit hole, one thing after the other, after the other, after the other, and you're like, oh my god, you really didn't know about all these things, and this is not what you were taught or you thought was truth. There were so many things behind this. So when I was doing this, that's when something happened back in my home state, Karnataka. It was this hijab controversy that took place, which became national and international news. And to tell you, the funny fact is, I didn't even get to know about this through news channels. I got to know about this through social media. I was one day mindlessly scrolling through my Instagram, and I saw a couple of my Muslim friends posting these posts saying, I stand with hijab. And I didn't understand why they had posted that. Because I had seen those girls as these women who hardly wore hijab. So I didn't understand why they had posted that. And then after a couple of days, I saw another Hindu friend of mine saying, I stand with my Muslim sisters or my Muslim friends. I was like, okay, something else I got to see. And then after some time, I saw some other Hindu friends posting, we stand with uniform. I was like, okay, now I have to see what is happening. And that's when I started watching all these debates, trying to understand what are people trying to say here. And what I realized through watching so many hours of news is that, I don't know, I feel things are still the same how it used to be back. Because I'll tell you about myself. I have studied in a school which was, run by Muslims, and majority of the students were Muslims. Most of my school friends are Muslims, and very small population of them were like Hindus. And in our school, I've seen some girls wearing hijab, most of them not wearing it. And Hindu people, we used to wear bindi and nothing was objected. And at the same time, I also know of schools where they had a strict uniform, where religious symbols had no place. And back then, people were fine with it. Whether you want to take this approach or that approach, people didn't really have an issue back then. And what has changed now? There are still the same institutes. Some institutes want a uniform, some don't. And why all of this issue? And while I was following that, next thing happened, and that was Russia and Ukraine war. Now, obviously, there's no two ways about it. War is a really, really bad thing, and nobody should be opting for war any day. But what I also noticed is how people were just trying to project Russia as this evil nation who was invading its neighboring country, but nobody really spoke about, how Americans were like gung-ho about, supporting Ukrainians and stuff. But when war came, all they could do was, provide sanctions. And what happened? Ukrainians were just left to fend for themselves. And there was also issue why India is not voting against Russia without really understanding what is the dynamics that India shares with Russia or with Ukraine. So how many of us really think of going beyond what we see on mainstream media? And while this was happening, the third thing happened. I really don't know whether I should call this a happy accident or an unhappy one, because just when I started gaining interest in these things, one thing after the other kept on happening. And when I saw this Kashmir Files, I'll tell you, the first time I saw this, I got to know about Kashmiri Pandits was not through my textbooks or through news channels. I was born in the year 91, a year after the genocide, and that's how I would prefer to call it. It was a genocide, so I didn't get to know it through my teachers or our politicians, no one. I got to know about it through a random YouTube video, because I had just then discovered YouTube and I was watching all these random videos, and that's when I saw this video of a Kashmiri Pandit guy that went viral. Back then I thought, okay, something bad has happened with these people, but I didn't have this research mode on to understand, okay, what's really happening, what has happened with this community, right? I just saw it as one another video. So, a couple of years back, I saw this announcement that there's gonna be this movie called Shikara, which was apparently about the true incidents that happened with Kashmiri Pandits. So, I was intrigued. I very much wanted to watch the movie. But when the movie actually came out, somehow it didn't garner enough attention around it, or there was no excitement around it. I didn't know much about what was happening, and somehow I didn't watch the movie. Okay, I didn't know how bad it was or how good it was, nothing. I just didn't watch that movie. And now when the Kashmir Files movie trailer was released, that's when this topic again came back into my life, and I watched the trailer. It was like, oh my god. And I watched so many reaction videos. I'm guilty of that. I watch a lot of reaction videos, not just because I'm interested in seeing some random foreigner commenting about Indian stuff, but I really want to, I'm interested in understanding what is people's perspective about us, our culture and stuff like that. So yeah, I was watching so many reaction videos, reviews, blah blah blah. And what I started noticing is, and that too after Vivek Agnihotri made a video about Film Companion, how they are not at all promoting the movie. Forget promoting, they don't even want to acknowledge the presence of such a movie. And then I started looking at Film Companion, because I'm someone who has been following Film Companion. I watched their reviews, I watched their roundtables. I was really happy when they introduced Film Companion South, because finally people were talking about regional cinemas and considering them as Indian cinema. So I was following this website, and this person says that they are not acknowledging their movie, which is based on real truth. Now, I was like, that doesn't sound right. So I kept on, following them to see, okay, maybe next year they'll have a comment on this or to speak something, because, when we work, we have been told, right, this is the roles and responsibilities of your job. Similarly, as a film critic, I think that is your basic job, to watch a movie or a trailer and tell what your thoughts are. Bashing it or praising it is secondary, at least to acknowledge that there's such kind of movie, so that you have millions of followers. People will get to know that such a movie exists. So by closing your eyes and not acknowledging this movie, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to make people not watch this movie, or you don't want people to watch this movie? What is it? Like, is it so difficult to face truth? Because I remember watching this debate between Shashi Tharoor and Vikram Sampath, and Rajdeep Sardesai was the moderator there, and the question was, what do you want to do? Do you want to go back into your past and dwell into it, or you want to look ahead and make progress? And I remember Shashi Tharoor saying that when we had independent India, our main focus was to, bring people together and progress together as a nation. So dwelling in the past wouldn't have helped us in that. To which I remember Vikram Sampath responding, there were two things. One is, Shashi Tharoor is a person who has spoken about British rule in India, how they have plundered us, how they have destroyed us and stuff like that. And it was a viral video in YouTube. And the same person who wants acknowledgement of what happened to India and reconciliation is not willing to go further back from that. Is it because it doesn't fit their narrative? I don't understand. And another thing that Vikram Sampath said was, throughout history, there has been times where there has been safe spaces where people could come together, talk about what has happened, what were the wrong things that has happened, acknowledge them and grieve, and then move on. It's part of reconciliation, right? Even here in Canada, whatever happened with the indigenous people, at least they've taken the first steps of, talking about it. And it is very important for everyone to know about their history for two reasons. One, if there's something good, you can learn from it, continue doing it, and do it in a better way. Or if there's something bad that has happened, irrespective of what your religious beliefs are, we can just look at it as humanity, and we'll have to make sure that no such things happens again, right? It is our responsibility. We can't leave it upon chance thinking it may happen or may not happen. We will look at it when it happens. That's not the right thing to do. So brushing things under the carpet, it's never really the answer. And there's no harm in knowing truth, and there's no necessary to hold somebody else accountable for wrongdoing of others, but just to know the truth is very important in my opinion. And how can somebody else decide whether you are eligible enough to, listen to these truths, hear to these truths or not? It is really not somebody else's choice. It's better to know what the ugly truth is rather than to live with a beautiful life filled with lies. So yeah, so one thing after the other in the past couple of months, since I've been actively thinking about all these things are the reason why I really wanted to watch the Kashmir Files, because it was about the truth which nobody dared to say. And I wanted to watch this movie to support such a filmmaker who is courageous enough to tell truths. And it is so sad to people quickly jumping into conclusions, branding it as a propaganda film and stuff like that. I mean, the man and his team have spent 4 years of their life, researching on this topic, talking to people, first generation victims of this genocide. And how can you very conveniently call it a lie? Or much far worse is to not even acknowledge it. It's such a sad thing to happen. So I really wanted to put my money where my mouth is, and that's why I wanted to watch the movie. And before I move on to my next question of why, what I felt watching the movie, I do want to talk about one more stuff, that is, of all the reviews, reactions that I've watched, I recently stumbled upon this channel called Mr. and Mrs. Rasdan, I guess. The guy is from Canada, if I'm not wrong, and his name is also Chaitanya. The he Chaitanya and the she Chaitanya. So he has made two videos. Part one is his reaction to trailer, and part two is his answering of questions that he received through his first video. So it's a really amazing video that he has made. And after watching the movie, I felt there were some places where he has explained stuff much better than the movie, So I would highly recommend, if you're really interested in knowing the story of this genocide from Kashmiri Pandit himself, then you must watch this movie. I'll make sure that I give a link in the description for both his videos. So now, coming to the next part of the question, what I felt watching the movie. And before even telling you what I felt, the struggle to even watch the movie, you know how many less number of screens are playing this movie. And thankfully, since the movie is getting this success, they're increasing the number of screenings, which is a really good thing. But here in Canada, I live in Brampton, closer to Toronto. I had to literally change 3 buses, travel 2.5 hours one way to reach the place, cinema hall. So I have spent more time and money on traveling rather than on the actual movie. And I had to literally keep aside one entire day of my life to watch this movie. But was it worth it? Definitely yes. And yeah, now coming to the part of how I felt watching the movie, one word that definitely comes to my mind is very uncomfortable. I was not at all comfortable with whatever I was seeing on the screen. It made me sad. It was just horrible what was being shown on the screen. And to know that that's the truth is the much sadder part. And there's the scene in the movie where a pregnant lady, she pukes looking at what's happening around her. And that's exactly how I felt for almost 75% of the movie. It literally felt like throwing up. It was so uncomfortable watching the truth of what they had to face, you know. And 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 we were discussing about what were the scenes that really got to you. Like, while watching the trailer, I remember there's this scene where they shoot the mother and the blood splashes on the daughter and she screams. That was really difficult for me while watching the trailer. But the first trailer that they released is a guy counting the number of people, right? That really didn't made much effect on me while watching the trailer. But when I was watching the movie, I didn't know where this scene was placed. And when I saw it, while watching the movie, there were moments where I had to hold back my tears. But that scene, I just couldn't. I broke. It's just looking at their face. You will see the face of a human who has lost hope, who knows that nothing is gonna change. This is the end. So that was really heartbreaking, that scene. And when I come out of the movie hall, since we are in Canada and still it's winter, it was snowing, it was literally like, am I in Kashmir? That was the thing. And I was talking to my brother. Apparently, the movie theater where he watched this in Bangalore, it's called Sharda. Apparently, the name of the protagonist's mother in the movie. So the coincidence is irony. So yeah, this was my experience watching the movie. Very uncomfortable and a sad one. But yeah, you should definitely watch this to understand the truth. And then coming to the last part, what is my takeaway? After watching the movie, I was standing outside to get some air and was talking to one of our friends, and he was like saying that we are like normal people. When we see stuff like this, we also feel like we have to do something, but what really can we do? Like, we don't have money or any kind of power to, in decision making or politics or nothing apart from this, maybe voting. So I've been thinking about it, and what I really felt was what we can really do about this as Aadmi is changing our attitude about how we think about things. We have to care about things around us, around our people, our country, and not just to make it all about I, me, myself. And and we really have to educate ourselves and not fall for what media shows us all the time. They're either branded as right-wing media or left-wing media. It's really important to know what both sides are saying to understand what really truth is. And we have to do our own research about stuff and not make somebody else's popular opinion as our opinion just because it is convenient for us to do. So I really hope that we care enough, because out of this entire Kashmiri Pandits genocide, what I really felt was there were like two parts of it. First part is the loss of humanity, where people just couldn't see each other as humans, and religion came in between them, and this genocide happened. And once that happened, when they really became refugees in their own country, the hardships that they had to go through and to build their lives all over again without getting the support from people whom they thought would support them, not their community, not the government, no one. So if we could change our attitude towards people around us, I think it would be really good. And that's the reason why I wanted to make this video, because I am making that conscious choice from being a ignorant person to saying I care and I want to learn about our history. No matter how uncomfortable it is, I want to know what the truth is, and I don't want to make somebody else's opinion my opinion. And I hope through this video, maybe some of you can change the way you think and look in a different direction and find a new path and start caring about things around you. So I guess that's it for the day, guys, and I hope to see you all soon in my next video. I wish for all of us to be blessed with abundant love, peace, and happiness. Take care, and do remember, life's all about the little things.